Hi, Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Rubin. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Yeah, great, wonderful. Um, so just to introduce myself, I'm David Page. I am the Baltimore representative for Naava Kodesh, and I'm here with Rabbi Rubin. And just a little introduction about Naava Kodesh. Naava Kodesh, we promote and help facilitate Aliyah from Chutz La'aretz. So Rabbi Rubin, I just wanted to start with just asking you, just broadly speaking, before we get into all the details, all the technicalities about making Aliyah and the complexities, what is your best case that a person who's living in Chutz La'aretz should consider uprooting his family and making Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael?
Okay, so that's a very big question. Um, I guess I'll preface by introducing myself. I'm Duvi Rubin. I'm the Rav of Kehillas or Yisrael in Baltimore, and it's a young, thriving Kehillah. And that means that when you have young families in your shul, that is an opportune time for them to consider Aliyah. So this is Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, a Yid should always have Eretz Yisrael on their mind with a deep love and desire and wish to move to Eretz Yisrael. And Baruch Hashem, we have that in our Kehillah. And every so often I am asked by young families about the move, and some of them have moved. So what's the best case scenario? When would it make sense? So this really touches on a lot of points. I would say number one is that a husband and wife have to have a vision of what they would like out of life, out of their children, out of their progeny. What's it going to look like? What would they like to produce in life? Now, simply stated, we would all say, good Jews, Avdei Hashem. So that has to be the first question. Will this step make the most sense in my Avdas Hashem, my avoda? There's a tshuva that I like to quote. We were on a recent trip. I quoted it to you from the
Hmm.
Trumas Hadash and Chelik Beis Simon Peichas, or the Trumas Hadash in the 1400s. And the Trumas Hadash was the halachic decisor of the Ashkenazic Jewry. So many of the Ramaz, Psakim, and Shulchan Aruch stem from the Trumas Hadash. So Rabbi Yisrael Isser, the author of the Trumas Hadash, was asked in the 1400s, should I make Aliyah? His response, quite short, was simply, listen, unfortunately, there's infighting between the Sephardim and Ashkenazi Jewry that's there currently. On top of all of that, you have the Arabs, which makes it very difficult for life. And in addition to that, it's very hard to make parnasa. So although living in Eretz Yisrael is the most beautiful mitzvah, sof davar kol nishma selikim mirabis ves mitzvos of shamar. At the end of the day, we're going to be the best Avodah Hashem. That's what Trumas Dashan said. And that's, I think, a very important starting point for this conversation. Because in life, Baruch Hashem, we have beautiful ideas and hasagos, and if someone loves boating and his mission in life is to build the biggest, buy the biggest yacht, we'd say it's beautiful, it's nice. I'm sure you'll enjoy that, but that's not your priority. So lahavdil elef alfi alafim, living in Eretz Yisrael is not even close to buying a yacht, but it is a mitzvah. But it's not the only mitzvah in the Torah. And that being said, all mitzvahs need to be taken into consideration. Where will I and my family be the best Avdei Hashem in fulfilling as many mitzvahs as much as I can? So with that background, I think we can start the conversation. So a young family, they're living in Chutz La'aretz, and they're thinking, look at the anti-Semitism in the world. Where's this country headed? And it's a very good question. It's a very good question. We don't have the answers to that question. Although the writing does seem to be on the wall. However,
Yeah.
we don't know how long that's going to take. We don't know, maybe there'll be a Yeshua. History has showed that unfortunately, in these types of situations, it doesn't usually get that much better. It can, right? We hope and we dive in and we'll do our hishtadlus. But also history shows us that it doesn't happen necessarily overnight. It can, right? But it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. So a young family here where I'm in Baltimore, where you are in Baltimore, will say, listen, this country, what future does it hold? Eretz Yisrael is where we belong. Check, correct. That is where we all belong. That is exactly where we belong. That question is do you belong though at this moment? Is that as me as with my history, with my kolchos hanefesh, with my understanding, what will I be compatible there? Will my children be compatible over there?
Rabbi
Because
Rubin, can
yeah,
I just ask you a question on something? You said Eretz Yisrael is a place that we belong.
correct.
I think sometimes
That
we
is
we
our
say
home.
these things, and people, we kind of take it for granted that people like understand the meaning of that. Um, can you maybe elaborate on that idea? Like, what does that mean? That's the place where we belong. Like, what do you mean? I'm very comfortable here in Baltimore. I live in Baltimore. As you know, we have a
Right.
growing, thriving Kehillas. It's very comfortable. We
So,
could
so,
voice
so, Reb
the
David Baruch Hashem, I love you, and I know you, and I know you. I also know the answer to that question, but it's a great question. It's a sad question because I have heard it from Jews that don't really feel like, why do I belong there? Um, so we can give a whole shir on that, but the kids are nimrats. We all know that Eretz Yisrael, Eini Hashem Lakecha De'er Shesat Tamid. That is the land where Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, "I am here." I'm elsewhere also. Chutz La'aretz, of course. Yisrael is Begalus. Shekhinah is also Imahem Begalus. But we are under the uh, jurisdiction, so to speak, of the Sari Umay Sa'olam. As Chazal say clearly in the Gemara, Maksubis, and elsewhere, and that really encapsulates what this is all about. We are in Galus. You're in a foreign territory, not under the close protection and divine, intimate relationship with Hakadosh Baruch Hu. That's why certain mitzvahs cannot be fulfilled in Chutz La'aretz. It's like the Gemara, "Ki'ilu ein like God." That's just, God, like you're not even fulfilling the dream. The dream is to be in Eretz Yisrael because that's where you can fulfill the Ratzon of Hashem to the greatest extent. That's where the potential lies. The potential lies in Eretz Yisrael. That's the Paltern Shamelech. It's the palace of the king, which also requires a person when they're there, as we know from Rabbi Chaim and Tosfos and other Sfarim as well, require a person to have a higher level of adherence to Torah mitzvahs while they're in Eretz Yisrael because of that reality. But we would say, come on, any day, why would I want to sit in the nosebleeds if I could be down, on the turf? So that's really what it is. Um, Even though the Ramban takes it to an extreme level of, there's really only Kiyah mitzvahs in Eretz Yisrael, but there are different understandings in there. Ramban again, another time for a shir.
Yeah, I
But
just saw that, by the way, in this past week's parsha. It says B'kerev haaretz. It says you should keep the mitzvahs B'kerev haaretz. And the Ramban again references, like, he has two pshatim in that. One pshat is that it's referring to the mitzvahs of Tuyos Baretz that are dependent on Eretz Yisrael. He says another pshat is, and he refers to what he said in Vayikra about how really all mitzvahs are meant to be
right,
are meant to
right,
be in Eretz
right, right,
Yisrael.
right, right, right.
Important,
That
yeah.
that that, that is the primary land. I mean, it's the source for everything in this world. When we say Hamaitzi Lechem in Haaretz in
Mm.
Baltimore, the Vilna Gaon reminds us that Haaretz is Eretz Yisrael. The
Wow.
Lechem in Baltimore is supported by the Shafa that comes through Eretz Yisrael.
Is that
So
why when we bench? Is that why when we bench we mention Eretz Yisrael's Al Aretz Al Hamazon? Is that
definitely, it's worthy of mention, but also because that is the home of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The Beis Hamikdash was not in Baltimore. The Beis Hamikdash was in Eretz Yisrael. So that's where our Father is. Right? That's where He would like to settle His home. Why should we be so far away from that? The Maharal and others, the whole concept of artifice is rooted in Eretz Yisrael, as the Maharal writes. But uh, that should not even be a conversation here. What meaning it should be on everybody's? Everyone should know that's not a debate. That should not be, zer mitzvah bismana zeh to be in Eretz Yisrael. Whether there's a chiyuv or not, big conversation. There's a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah, and on top of the mitzvah, that's our homeland. And we can even talk about the side benefits for a moment. In living in Eretz Yisrael, you're connected to your heritage. There's no Chalamite here in Baltimore. Am I taking my kids to Climb Zone? Where's my sisters in Israel taking her kids to Chalamite? Kivrei Avos. Like you're talking about a connection to our heritage, which is Messiah, which is so valuable, so valuable. Um, so there is the Eretz Yisrael is rich in opportunity, rich in opportunity of kirva to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, kiyum mitzvahs, Talmud Torah, Avir Dara Machkim. We can go on and on about how Eretz Yisrael really is the primary location for a Jew to serve Hakadosh Baruch Hu. I don't think that's debatable, and I think if someone's going to debate that, they got to go back to the base matters and learn a little bit. So going back to our conversation before. You have this family who wants to go to Eretz Yisrael. They've heard all the Torah. They're convinced that's where we need to be. They're looking at the writing on the wall in Chutz La'aretz, and this is not where our future is not here. All of that said, we go back to Shemis Teshin. Where am I and my children going to be the best Abdei Hashem? So that's going to be a very important question that families can probably only answer after doing much research. More, I don't know if it's just one pilot ship, probably more, but real investigation for their family, right? Because it is a foreign land, and as we can discuss in a moment, the issues, the common hurdles that a person will have to jump once they're there.
So now's a good time, I think, to make like a little endorsement. If anyone who's looking to make a pilot trip, there are a lot of details involved. Sometimes they say, "Yeah, I want to make a pilot trip, but what do I do? Who do I contact? Who do I talk to?" Naava Kodesh is a great address for the first step.
Yeah,
Conversation.
I would second that
Kodesh.
as a Rav who
And
went on your trip, and to see the dedication and real love and passion that the representatives of Naava Kodesh have, and their dedication to Klal Yisrael. You know, they're not in it for the money, if there's any. They're in it
there
to win.
wasn't.
They are in it to win it, to bring Mashiach, to
Yeah.
bring the Gula, which is it's a beautiful, beautiful organization. Um, so a family's going to have to, it's. I'll say this from the get-go. It's complex. That's just the reality. It's not black and white. It's not, everybody should go or no one should go. It's not true, right? There are many families who go and are very successful, and there are families who go out there, unfortunately, they make yirida soon afterwards. Um, it's a complex situation, right? The Mashiach is not here. It's not, just rosy and easy. Does it? It doesn't. We spoke to people there on the ground. So with proper education and familiarity with the lay of the land, I think people will start building a case for themselves to actually move.
Yeah.
There are many opportunities, but I'll let you go with the next question. We'll get there.
Yeah. So Rabbi Rubin, so we went on this mission to Eretz Yisrael with you, with Rabbi Rubin, and I'm sorry,
Sure.
with Rabbi Marwick, Rabbi Rose, and it was an amazing trip. I'd like to hear from you some of the things, maybe some of the things that surprised you about going to Eretz Yisrael and actually seeing, looking at it from a lens of like, how does a person live here in Eretz Yisrael? How does a person make Aliyah? What were some of your takeaways?
Okay, so living 6,000 miles away from Eretz Yisrael, of course, I've been to Eretz Yisrael many times before. I learned in Eretz Yisrael for 2.5 years in an Israeli yeshiva. I was very familiar with the lay of the land, but that was coming from a 20-year-old perspective.
By the way,
And
Rabbi Rubin, your writ was fantastic. I just have to say, Mamish, like to me, your Mamish speak like a native. I could tell you
uh, it's a little rusty.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised to see the growth, to see how little I recognized Ramat Beit Shemesh. My aunt and uncle have been there for 30 plus years, and it was beautiful back then, but it's just exploded, and that's very telling. The Klal Yisrael is coming back. Klal Yisrael is that's where we're going. So that was beautiful to see. We Baruch Hashem, we had the opportunity to go through many schools, boys' schools, girls' schools, high schools, and elementary schools, to see the growth. It's hard.
Can I tell you one thing that really one of the highlights for me was watching you at Darchei Noah, I'm watching you interact with the boys and giving them like a faher in in Ivrit, speaking back and forth. It just and how excited the boys were to talk and learning with you, and it was I that was a highlight of the trip for me. So
It was very, very sweet. The boys there were very eager to answer
yeah.
our questions, and they're doing a lot of good over there. It was very nice to see uh, the development of shuls. This is an important conversation for an American family moving to Eretz Yisrael because again, there are many facts to discover there. One of them is that shul, or I should say, kehila life is different, and definitely has been. It's not we met with Rabbi Haber, who owns Mosaic Press, because as a rabbi, it's you have to make his parnasa. It doesn't, and he's unique because Baruch Hashem, he's able to support himself and be there for the kehila at the same time. Many rabbanim there carry 5, 6, 7 jobs. They're from minyanim. It's a different part of culture, which has its challenges. Its challenges because here in America, I think many are blessed to have a close relationship with their Rav, which has many, many, many advantages for the whole family. The family uh, experience. So Makil is a family experience, which is very wholesome, and that's something that is when you talk about surprises. Baruch Hashem, like to see that starting to get off the ground. I'm not going to say it's there just yet, as we'll discuss in a minute, but there are beautiful Kehillas that are developing there, um, primarily in the American cities of Ramat Beit Shemesh. And that's something that a family that does plan on going, I think, fairly strongly. Maybe I'm the gay but I am a rough a big soul, or small soul, but a lot of people um, who benefit so much from that type of relationship. And going there, a family has to say, if we're going, we have to find ourselves a rough. We have to. We have to. And Leah and I, there are rabbanim there who are making inroads, in this area. So that was nice to see. That was very nice to see. Um, One of the main reasons why I went is because, as I was saying before, from 6,000 miles away, it was more hearsay. Even though I have been there in Eretz Yisrael, but a lot of development that is going on, people are more encouraging of Aliyah. And I wanted to see, b'may einai, with my own eyes, is this true? What has changed? What has developed? And what has changed is that we heard from the Mechanchim the different support systems they've developed for Olim,
Mm.
in the schools primarily, but they've recognized the issues that people have been talking about for years, and they are working on tackling them. That was very, very good to hear. Very good to hear that their head is not in the sand. They recognize their issues and they're working towards dealing with them. That being said, there are some issues that were not such a surprise to me, but gave me insight to them and it hopefully strengthened my education and my insight to better counsel families before they go, because some of those issues are real and need to be addressed before a family goes. I think as you probably heard me say that for someone who's older, who Baruch Hashem, is comforted in their Yiddishkeit here in America, and they're financially stable, because as we heard from many people, including the Sila that we went to there to have, and we sat with them for an hour and a half just to talk about financials, which was great. Um, to go to Eretz Yisrael, financially unstable is not wise. It's hard. It's hard, and you don't know the language, and you don't know what you're going to get up. People have done it, yes, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily wise to do. Um, there's bitachon, and of course, people have tremendous siyad d'shmaya. When you're trying to do the Ratzon Hashem, you will get siyad d'shmaya, no doubt.
Yeah.
But,
Can I just say something else, Rabbi Rubin, just on that point?
mhm,
I think sometimes when we talk about Aliyah and some of the challenges, I think we also were very quick to make him like as if like these are fixed problems or
correct.
fixed challenges. But
Agree.
I think if a person really is Dorish Eretz Yisrael, so then when they start planning their life and they start choosing, what career path should I take? And the person has different options in front of him, it's worthwhile thinking about, well, what things, what jobs are valuable in Eretz Yisrael? What jobs can I make money in Eretz Yisrael with? What
100%.
jobs are can I work remote? It's like this idea that you just fall into a certain place and it's a certain way, and then you just say, well, I guess I can't because this is where I am.
Correct. Especially
You know,
as we get older, I think we've all observed as people get older, they get more conditioned, stuck in their ways, and not going to change. It is very hard to change as you get older. That's just a fact. But you're 100% correct. With proper research and open-mindedness, people could discover talents of their own and opportunities that they would never would have imagined. And there are many people doing that in Eretz Yisrael. There are living examples of that.
yeah, and
And
Eretz Yisrael is a thriving economy. Like there are things, and
exactly,
and
exactly, exactly.
the language is so when we're kids, learn of it, or when we're even now, it's like
Yeah,
take Opan. Like there
yeah, it's
there are
easier
things that
said
we
than
can do
done.
to
Easier said than done, but
yes,
100% it's doable. It is doable, but people have to be aware of that. The language barrier can, especially you bring a child in their, later stages in their development, teenage years, etc. The language is hard. The language is hard. Baruch Hashem, I went to an Israeli yeshiva. I did not know more than just the basic Hebrew from davening and Chumash, but um, I would say probably because I come from a musical family, it wasn't that difficult for me. But many of my peers did not pick it up, even though they were also in Israeli.
it's interesting. You're saying being musical translates and being able
I
to
really
learn
think so.
languages.
I really think so.
Really,
And my siblings do too.
so interesting.
I've seen other people do it as well. It's maybe there's more to it. I don't know. That's just my own observation. Don't hold me to that. But
Okay,
people do find that again, you're going to a foreign country, and a lot of the issues wouldn't really make a difference. It's not a problem with Eretz Yisrael, right? It's an Israeli moving to Baltimore would have
Mm.
similar issues, integration, and there and what comes from integration is happiness and productivity. If a person can't connect and integrate, they don't feel good about themselves, and then their productivity certainly um, is lacking. So, being aware of that, being aware of parnasa, and being aware of education and language, etc., are important. But I think a big thing that I wanted to explore, which we did, and let's just state the fact: we were there for 3.5 days. There's a lot more to discover, a lot more to
yeah,
learn, and whatever I'm saying in this conversation are my own perspectives that could be still, I'd be modal ha'emes. I'd be happy for more insight. Like I told you, right? We should be there for longer at more schools. I wish I
okay,
could.
we have to do
I have to
2.0.
go back. No, because it does. We're perhaps quick to turn, as I said, this on the trip as well. I think it resonated with you, right? To turn anecdotes into data,
Yeah,
and that's something that is very dangerous, because
yeah,
anecdotes should be called out for what they are. They're anecdotes.
yeah.
We could start building data over time through many, many anecdotes. That's what studies are. And hopefully we'll find patterns through that. Um,
The challenges with that, Rabbi Rubin, is things are evolving so
exactly.
quickly in Eretz
They are.
Yisrael. It's
They are.
like
They
yesterday's
definitely are.
data is not necessarily
And that's part of
today's
the
data.
problem, because there are
Yeah,
there are solutions being offered and innovated, but because it's happening in real time so fast, like the results are not yet. Your study will have a hypothesis and they'll present it and they'll say this is what we expect. But many times throughout their experiments, they'll discover that, well, our expectations actually were not met. We actually found to the contrary. So yeah, you have to know, when we talk about moving a family, like we're really dealing with their olam haba, and olam haba is not something you want to just play around with. Olam haba is the goal. Is the goal to be here and get every Jew to Olam Haba. And we can't lose sight of that goal. We can never ever lose sight of that goal. That's what the Trumas Hadashim was telling his Shoah. What I asked him. So I was talking about the challenges in Eretz Yisrael. So what I wanted to discover was the compatibility of an American Jew living in Eretz Yisrael. So I was talking about someone who's older, who's already fully developed. I mean, Baruch Hashem, there's so much programming over there, walking the streets of Eretz Yisrael, and just breathing in the air. Um, you know, like we said before, the opportunities are endless, especially people who, in their advanced age, want Chiddush. I
Mm.
have grandparents, Baruch Hashem, I may have asked him, after my grandfather was a pulpit rabbi for 50 years, they moved to Eretz Yisrael, and, they're living the life.
Yeah. Can I just say on that, with people who are older, they're nearing retirement. I think when I speaking to people, their biggest challenge is they have different sets of challenges than let's say a family does. One of the biggest things is I raised my children here in America, and that's where they settled now. And all my children and grandchildren are in America, and for me to be alone as an older person in Eretz Yisrael when my health is gonna decline and my dependence, I'm gonna need
Yeah.
more help. That becomes so it almost becomes like a cycle. Like we
It's a
settle here
very
in America.
valuable point. It's a salient point because with children, Ateris, Tiferes Avos B'nai Banim, it is a certain satisfaction in life as we advance in age. As my grandmother, my other grandmother once pointed out to me, Baruch Hashem, she lived till 90. She said, my friends are gone. My family, my
Mhm.
immediate family is gone. It is harder in life. There's a sense of loneliness. And when a person is blessed with children and grandchildren, great grandchildren, the nachas that they get from them, right, is their life. That gives them koach and chiyus.
And
And
it's the other way too. The grandchildren and the children, they gain a lot from,
very
from
much, very
their grand
much,
well,
very much. I,
yeah.
I, I, I do give a lot of credit to both my grandfathers who were pulpit rabbis who I was very close to. That's probably why I'm sitting here right now, with a tie on. 100%, 100%. And my grandparents actually went there with a child and their children and grandchildren already in Eretz Yisrael. So,
But I was someone was telling me a story that there was that they know someone who did move to Eretz Yisrael. They as they were retiring, and all their children and grandchildren were here. But that was actually the catalyst for a lot
yeah,
of their children and
yeah,
grandchildren
yeah,
to
yeah.
move
And
to Eretz
and
Yisrael.
and and people
Sometimes,
have to look at their children and say, "Hey, are you guys ready to come in a year or two, or whatever it is?" Like maybe that actually is the ideal. Yeah, it's case specific. There's no one golden rule. So there's opportunity for someone older, opportunity for Bachram. It's Eretz Yisrael. It's almost a shoo-in for someone who doesn't have to have any worries about chinuch. Right?
yeah.
It can be a shoo-in. But someone who has children, young children, I would say what we saw in Ramat Beit Shemesh, their younger years, I'm not so nervous about it at all. I think they're doing a fantastic job, with their education, from K through 8, not a problem. I think, the challenges start happening, um, or at least should say they're more acute in high school, because that's where a child starts developing their autonomy, starts uh, reflecting on their identity. Who am I? What will I become? So they look at their parents, and their parents are American born and raised Yidden who love HaKadosh Baruch who love Klal Yisrael, who will, give their shirt off their back for another Yid. And, here in America, we have no problem hosting the greatest Rosh Yeshivas and the most staunch supporters, including soldiers of the Tzahal. Right? It's easy for us. It's like it's a no-brainer. They're Yidden. We were so proud of all of them, and that's a very a specialness of
By the way,
chutzpah.
to your point, it almost for me, when you're saying these words, it hurts me that you're putting them on the opposite ends of the spectrum. You know,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
the way you're saying it hurts me.
Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
understand.
Exactly. Our differences are so few. And unfortunately, when all you see in Eretz Yisrael are Yidden, so then okay, so if you're on the left and I'm on the right, we must be as far apart as the Yid in Lakewood and the Catholic in Omaha, Nebraska. But that's Chalila v'chas. I mean, the distance is incomparable. Um, we're far closer than some people may think we are. We learn with the same Torah, the same Rebbeinu Shalom, Am Echad, Safa Achas. It's very sad, the reality. It is very sad, the divide. But unfortunately, it's a reality. It's a reality over there where there are, I hate to use the term boxes, but there are tracks. That's what it is. You go to high school, talk about a boy for a second. Are you going to a high school that has English or no English? And if you go to high school that has English, you may be branded X.
Does Zora mean like secular studies?
Secular studies, yes. Something
Like
that
we
Ner
call it.
Yisrael, a typical yeshiva in America is no problem. You know, there are definitely institutions that don't have it here in America, but it's not part for the course. Like, Mirza Hashem, you'll be the next, God Adar, but you still do secular studies. It's not a steer here. Whereas over there, certainly in the Haredi sector, it is. And we spoke to Yitzhak Berkowitz or Vasha Weiss over there. Vasha Weiss, we spoke to him about this, and in Yerushalayim, boys not allowed to play ball. Right here is, what do you mean? Go play.
That wasn't
A
the case
different
for Rabbi
culture.
Chenish, though, right? Like
Not the case in Ramat Beit Shemesh. Correct. However, um, when discovering your identity, those are the tracks that are available in Eretz Yisrael. So if one wishes to remain, as we heard, in the bubble of Ramat Beit Shemesh, so they'll play ball and they stay in Ramat Beit Shemesh. The kids will play ball, but it's unfortunate that, it's not fully self-sufficient just yet in terms of
Mm.
yeshivas, right? And then yeshivas plays out in shidduchim, and that's a challenge. That's a challenge. Do you go to the army? The army is a challenge. I mean, that's a big question. You have to answer that question. Are we a family of soldiers, or were we not? Do we send our children to the army or not? And that is a very defining question for families. I mean, it almost all of a sudden now puts you and your family in a box, in a specific identity, which is challenging. You got to call a spade a spade. It is challenging. Where here in America, we're not faced with that challenge. We have other challenges, but we're not faced with that challenge. And for some, depending on their children may embrace the Haredi lifestyle, and the parents have to be on board. If you're not on board with your children, we could be mechanech, we could lead them, right? But we can't force them. We can't manipulate them. That is unhealthy parenting.
Mm.
Um,
I just wanted
but we
to
need to be proud of
maybe,
them for their choices.
mm.
But they will make choices that will be different than our lifestyle because they're living in the Middle East and we're not. We didn't grow up there.
So the children are always going to be, in most cases, are going to look different than their
They will.
parents.
They will. That's just
Yeah.
the reality.
It's
And
interesting. I had a
and it's
conversation with
unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I have to be careful what I say, but there is a reality, as we heard from the Gedolim when we were there, that certain tracks, it's not just all tracks lead to the same end. Yeah, I wish that was true, but they don't, right? And certain tracks, there are compromises in their Yiddishkeit, or they embrace certain compromises in their Yiddishkeit, which is very unfortunate. And certain tracks are very extreme in their Yiddishkeit, which is also unfortunate.
Mhm.
It's not the balance that I can't speak for all American Jewry, but you and I, who Baruch Hashem, we're I would say the chinuch that we're getting with our children here. Could there be improvement? There can always be improvement, right? I think that the strength of learning Torah over there is stronger than here. Can we improve? Yes. But there's a certain wholesomeness that is very, very special, and I would frankly call priceless. That it's a mahalach hachayim that's very healthy and balanced. That we heard from the Mechanchim in Eretz Yisrael of how much they want us there, so that we can bring this Mahalach HaChaim there. And I would love in a heartbeat to say, yeah, let's do it. Let's just go. Let's just all go. Everyone, all at once, just go. And we can bang our heads against it for the next couple of years to figure out a way. But in the meantime, it's not happening overnight. It's just not going to happen overnight. It could hopefully happen gradually, and something's going to have to change over there in the army situation, which is unfortunate right now. There's so many chayalim yirei shamayim, so many chayalim lemdei Torah that are inspiring, and at the same time, there's so many Talmid Chachamim that are inspiring and mevakshim and anovim, and they're very special people in Eretz Yisrael, very very special people in Eretz Yisrael, and I once heard a line. Tzvi Holland told me this. Who heard it from his Rabbi Duvi
Mm.
Rubin.
Oh,
He
I'm
had Eretz
like
Yisrael.
I'm a Rabbi Rubin as well.
Rubin told him. He said, in Eretz Yisrael, there's Beit Sefer and there's Cheder. Magen Avot, Beit Sefer, Cheder. He said, I send my children to Beit Sefer. I didn't send my children to the Cheder. Reuven Leichley didn't send his children to the Cheder. He said, for one reason.
It doesn't surprise me, by the way,
Yeah.
one bit.
Well, listen to what he said. This is
Yeah.
very, very, very wise. He said, I grew up going to Beit Sefer, which means I know how to be mechanech a child in a Beit Sefer. I don't know how to be mechanech a child in a Cheder.
Mm.
Go there. That means you're handing the reins off to someone else, and as parents, we have to take that in. Realize, if I'm doing a good job over here, to shift gears is hard. It is. It's just it has its challenges. If you find that American life chinuch is not speaking to you, and Eretz Yisrael chinuch really speaks to you, and you're going to be on the same page as whatever system you take, go for it. Go for it. If you're a more Haredi minded person, and there'll be consistency between the home and the school, right? There's a mahalach in the home. There's mahalach chayim. Fine. Everyone has their right to their mahalach chayim. Shivim panim l'Torah, as long as it's within the framework of Torah, within Shulchan Aruch. I have no problem with that. But consistency is a very very valuable asset in a home, and when raising children. And I think that also needs to be on the table when having the discussion of Aliyah. Not also that must be on the table.
So the Rav is the Rav is saying that so the Rav mentioned that there are many that there have been families from Yisrael that have made Aliyah, and I guess they went through I'm assuming they went through the process, and they took their pilot trip, they did their research, they went in open eyed with what the challenges might be, and they decided to make that leap. Saying, but the truth is, anytime a person is going to uproot their family, which is doing well, healthy, and certainly if they're not healthy, that's probably more of a reason not to make that move. So these are healthy, good, well, functioning families. Anything you're going to do is going to be a risk. It's always going to be a risk.
100%.
So
Yeah.
why should a person take that risk?
Why should they take the risk? Because
Yeah,
that's
why
life.
should they take the risk?
Because
Even if
that's life. When
everything against
something's
everything, like,
important, listen, a person is starting a business, right? Starting a new business is a risk. Why should I take it? I should just go get a government job. Oh, that's hard to get nowadays. But I'll get a lower salary. Call it a day. Why would I take a risk? The answer is because benefits, right? When the benefits outweigh the risk, you take a chance. You take a chance, and you have to know what's the cost. What's the gamble over here? If it's a family who's going to go for a year, a pilot job, they'll say, well, we're going to try it out for a year. I'm going to see. They may be surprised, pleasantly surprised, or disappointed. We hear that all the time. So, if a person can afford it and their children are at the right stage, and again, they should absolutely consult with people in the know, uh, people who have firsthand information, but people who are also wise. Many people who have seichel who are pikrim. Sometimes you speak to people. Again, it comes back to anecdotes, right? You speak to this family. Oh, this family, it works so well for them. It's gonna work well for us. Well,
True.
different apparatus.
Yeah.
You gotta use your chachma. You gotta really
Yeah.
have a keen eye to what the situation is. Um, yeah, I mean, I think different families have different experiences. There's an older couple, and older, young and vibrant, that in their 60s who made Aliyah a couple years ago from our shul. They went to one place in Ramat Beit Shemesh and they left soon afterwards. It was not working out. It was a newer community, not working out. Baruch Hashem, now they've moved on and they love it. They love Eretz Yisrael. They love it, and
Mhm.
their kids are there. Their kids are in Eretz
Wow.
Yisrael with them. And that works. That works. My sister, who I said made Aliyah last year with 6 children, told me before I left for this recent trip, she said, just remember to tell people that it's very different if they have family. Baruch Hashem, I have grandparents there, aunts and uncles there, all in Ramat Beit Shemesh. My grandparents host Shalosh Shabbos. The whole family comes over. They're all around the corner from each other.
But Rabbi Rubin has to start somewhere, though. It's like
Well, it
someone
does
has to be
have
the
to
one to
start
start it.
somewhere, but just recognize, if you're going to compare, look, they did it. You have to realize what they have, right? If they have family that's there, it's going to be different for you, and that's very noteworthy because that is a piece to the puzzle. We're never going to have all the answers. It's not going to just this 100% is going to work, but it's not. That's life, right? There will be challenges here in America, challenges there, and there are many benefits that Eretz Yisrael presents. And if a family, after due diligence, and what I mean is hashtadless. Hashtadless is never crossing every T and dotting every O. Do your best. Do your best, and it makes sense. And there's a real potential for opportunity. I would say go. That's where we belong. But if there's too many sveikos, too much uncertainty, and bari v'shema, bari adaf. If right now your children are doing well, and your parnasa as well, and they're growing, they're having the Hashem over here, you may be taking a gamble with their chinuch. It may not be worth it at this moment, and it's sad. Call it what it is. It's sad. It's sad that we have to be here, but gotta when we start off the conversation, zoom out and say, "Saif davar kol nishma lekimi rabbis of shamar." Where can I give my children the most sound, healthiest chinuch, which will make them the strongest avli Hashem that they can.
So Rabbi Rubin, just to finish off, so somebody sees this podcast and they get inspired, they want to start. They haven't really thought about living in Eretz Yisrael, or even they don't really think about Drishas Eretz Yisrael. What's a good way? What's something that everybody can do right now to be more connected to the concept of Eretz Yisrael?
Yeah. Number one, visit. It's number one. It costs a lot of money, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Um, you cannot compare in a daima, Shmiel or Kiriya. You can't. You could talk about it all you want in your house, which is number two on the list. But number one is to see it. Number one is to see it. And I loved Eretz Yisrael growing up. It was a conversation in my own home. I didn't get to go till I was 16 years old, which was a very special trip for me. Um, and then I went as a bacher in yeshiva, 18 years old. When I left, coming back to America, I remember there in the in the car on the way to Ben Gurion. I really happened to start already before I was crying. I was crying like a baby. And we were leaving Eretz Yisrael. Experiencing Eretz Yisrael is really the number one way for a person to connect to the land. That's number one. Number two is talking about it, discussing it, right? It's like everything in Torah. The chinuch, the more we speak about halacha in our home, our children will be aware and concerned about halacha. And the more that our children see us davening for Eretz Yisrael, it should always be on our mind. The news and the tefillos, that's real. That's something that's happening. That we can connect to Baruch Hashem with modern communication. We can connect to Eretz Yisrael in ways they never could. And to talk positively about Eretz Yisrael, talk about the milas of Eretz Yisrael to our children, because we have to see peacefully Yeshua. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, you read the Rambam. Why do you want Mashiach? Why do you want Mashiach? You go to Eretz Yisrael, and then what? And I could serve their body. That's the best place I could serve their body. I'm saying Eretz Yisrael. I mean, it has to be talked about. It has to be talked about in the home. And the more that it is, the more our love grows for it, the more the yearning is. And I actually heard from a Yid, Talmud Chacham, and he said, "There's one thing that I lost when I moved to Eretz Yisrael. That was my yearning for Eretz Yisrael."
Mm.
Very sad. It was a very poignant point. Meaning, he said that's something that you and Chutz La'aretz have, to yearn for Eretz Yisrael. Sometimes once we have it, we get used to it. And that's a shame, and that's sad. It doesn't mean that every Yid who goes there is going to lose their yearning. Chas v'shalom. I mean, hadarabba. You go to the Kaisel, you see Yid in there crying for Mashiach mamish on a regular Tuesday afternoon. Right? Show me that here in Baltimore. Show me that in North America. Right? You can be very much connected, far more connected, potentially in Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael than here. But we too can also have more of a natural yearning to go, to want to be there, because we feel so far, so distant from our family, from Klal Yisrael, and from the home of Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
I'm gonna say it's like, to me, it's like the difference between being engaged and being married. When a person's engaged, then they have this, this, what do they call it? Then is an infatuation. It's more potent. It's more acute. When a person is married, so then this is just my day to day. But it's not less of a connection. I think it's for sure more of a connection when a person's
Adarabba,
married. But
Adarabba, it
that
grows over
feeling
time.
of yearning is
But it
not as
grows over time, and marriage only grows when you're working on it.
yeah.
And if a person goes to Eretz Yisrael, and then, we kind of
Saying
forget about where they are.
the voda doesn't
Forget it.
end
That's right.
to be connected.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Cannot get carried away with other things over there. Got to focus on the.
Okay.
Never take your eye off the goalpost.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Rubin.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me on this trip. Mirza
Absolutely.
Hashem
It
should be
was
ta'alas l'rabim,
amen.
and as a chus that Mashiach should come sooner.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Alta.